Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's time to kick off the last day of Bunnyfest. Can you believe it? My name is Leilani Angel, and I'm a volunteer with the San Diego House Rabbit Society. I know we have our San Diego bunny community out there, but I'd also like to give a special hello to everyone attending virtual Bunnyfest from all around the globe. At last count, we had visitors from 31 states and 12 countries participating in Bunnyfest, and that is just so, so exciting. We're going to start off today by meeting a very special bunny named Seymour. Oh, Seymour, that is quite the flop. How adorable. Now I'd like to introduce you to Andrew Caparonis and his family, who adopted Seymour from the San Diego House Rabbit Society. Hi, Andrew. Who do you have
Hi, how's it going?
today?
Good morning.
Good. So great to
I have my
see
son
you.
Panos with me, and of
Hi
course,
there.
Mrs. Nibbles and Mr. Seymour over here.
Oh my goodness, so, so precious. Can you share the story of how first Seymour came into your life?
Yeah, so it all started with Mrs. Nibbles, of course, the queen of the castle. We had adopted Mrs. Nibbles from a friend of ours down the street, and we developed a relationship with the Bunny Society. I always call it the Rabbit House. It irritates Jennifer, but with the Bunny Society, with Mrs. Nibbles, and then a few months later, maybe a year later, we saw Mr. Seymour on Facebook, and he was rescued, and it seemed like he had a splayed leg or something going on. Turns out he had a broken leg, and he had to have it amputated. And so, he required special care, and we thought, well, who better but us to adopt this bunny? We could give him everything he needs and take really good care of him. And he's a special rabbit, right? He's got a tremendous amount of energy. It's probably what got him in trouble in the first place. But you'd think he has 8 legs. He moves around so well, and he causes so much trouble. But yeah, he's a really special rabbit. He's a survivor, and he's an absolute example of why the Bunny Society is in place to rescue rabbits like this and to find them good homes. He's the poster child. So we're very fortunate to have him, and he's lucky to be here, and we're lucky to have him. So yeah, that's kind of the story.
How precious. So, so heartwarming. Look at that little nose twitching away. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know they have a very special morning routine when it comes to breakfast time. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what that's all about?
Well, so right now we're at my parents' house, and our rabbits spend quite a bit of time here when they're in town. And they are with the family in the kitchen. They spend their time on the island, and they eat nothing but organic lettuce and cilantro, and they're very well taken care of, right? They have the morning routine, coffee with the rabbits. When you're not paying attention to the rabbits, they're very good at knocking your coffee over, and they kind of hang out as members of the family.
And that they are so, so precious. I love it. That's adorable. Thank you so much for sharing that heartwarming story. But before we let you go, I'd like to thank you and your family on behalf of the San Diego House Rabbit Society for your generous support of Bunnyfest as our event and diamond sponsor. And we have a special sponsor logo there that was made just for Seymour and Nibbles.
Right. Yeah, we love it. I mean, it's we really take pride in sponsoring the Rabbit Society and helping out in any way that we can. I mean, it's important to remember, yeah, the rabbits are cute, but there's a whole lot of people at the Rabbit Society who are doing a whole lot of work, and nobody's doing it because they're making a bunch of money, right? They're doing it because they care for these rabbits and they want to save these rabbits. So I think that's really important to understand. I think most people think, okay, it's a shelter. There's a million shelters around, but there aren't a million shelters that care about rabbits, and this one does, and they do a lot of really really good work, and half the time nobody really knows what they're doing. So to Jennifer and everybody out there who's doing so much stuff, our sponsorship and our help is minimal. It's nothing compared to what everybody's doing in there to rescue these rabbits like Seymour and many many others.
Well, we appreciate that, and we appreciate you. We really couldn't do it without the generous support of our extended bunny family. Really, you're part of the bunny family. I'm getting all
Yeah,
teary-eyed here because
absolutely.
the buns mean so much to us, and it's just so great to
Absolutely. We
see people
and
share
we love
that.
it. Yeah, we love it. It's so much fun, and everybody's so much fun to go there and do whatever we can. But yeah, it's amazing.
That is wonderful. Well, thank you so very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day here at Bunnyfest, and please give those precious little babies a little bunny kiss for me. I just love them so, so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, Seymour does not like this ice cream cone. He's keeps pushing it right off the table. There he goes again.
Oh, just
So,
part of his morning
anyways,
agility.
yeah, it totally is. So, anyways, okay, thank you so much, and thank you for putting this on, and thank you to all the volunteers.
Thank you to you and your family. Take
Okay,
care.
see you later.
Bye-bye. Oh, what a wonderful story. Okay, folks, next up, we have what I think you'll find to be a very interesting guest speaker. Dr. Micah Coles is the Vice President of Technical Research at Oxbow Animal Health. And today he has an amazing presentation that's all about hay, getting to the root of it. So Dr. Coles, I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you very much, Miss Angel. It's a great day, a Sunday, to be sharing some information with all of you that are out there. And, I'll just reiterate with what the previous gentleman mentioned. Just a big thank you to all the volunteers and Jennifer and the entire team. I mean, there's so many great examples of rescue organizations, a lot like yours, kind of across the United States and, frankly, for that matter, worldwide. And I know I've been really, really fortunate to be able to work with a lot of those groups, not only through education, but through other interactions. And it's just a joy. And I just so appreciate all the time and effort that all of you put in there. So along with that lines, one of the things that I've been fortunate to do a lot of is to be sharing information and education. And one of the things that I so much about many, many rescue groups is not only the passion that they have for their animals and for their rabbits, but it's the passion they have for being educated and always wanting to learn more. And, I do a lot of lecturing everywhere from rescue groups to veterinarians, but I probably enjoy rescuing or lecturing to owners and rescue groups more than anything, because the passion and the interest is just so high. So, I spent a lot of time talking about fiber and talking about hay, and I know everybody who's attending the lecture today already understands the important role of Timothy and orchard, but what I wanted to do is kind of take that to the next level, kind of get to the root of it, is what I like to say, talking about hay. So some top level stuff. Most of you are probably always really aware of this. You're already up to speed on this, but just a good chance to kind of remind ourselves. We want to remember, first of all, that all of our hindgut fermenters, rabbits, guinea pigs, chinchillas, are all obligate herbivores. And so their reliance on hay and fiber, and for that matter, plant materials as a whole, is really complete. This isn't an animal that's going out and finding protein and fat from other sources. So they're anatomically designed to ingest large amounts of fiber, and then physiologically throughout their GI tract, they have some really unique processes that allow a fairly small species, right, with a high metabolic rate to survive on plant material. They do have a single chambered stomach with what we call hindgut cecal fermentation. And so much of the rabbit is tied to the hindgut, which is the cecum and the colon together, and what goes on inside of that part of the GI tract, which is the breakdown of fiber by bacteria. We call that bacterial fermentation. And as much as we know that fiber is important for the rabbits, it's also important to remember that rabbits cannot physiologically break down fiber on their own. They rely on the microbiome that live in the hindgut to break down fiber. And that's a really important thing to keep in mind. These guys are concentrate selectors, as you're all aware. They're going to pick out the things that they like the best. And if they can get away with eating the sweet stuff that tastes great, that's what they're going to do. So we always want to be really conscientious in making sure that we're feeding them foods that don't allow them to concentrate select. And that also ties back to the more of those concentrated types of foods, pellets and mixes, the less of the hay they're going to eat. So we really want to be controlling the amount of that uniform food that we're feeding so that we get these munchkins to eat as much of the loose stranded fiber as we possibly can. And again, as I alluded to, these are small animal species, right? High metabolic weight, they're prey species. So they don't have huge GI tracts and huge GI volumes. So they have a really unique ability, not only the symbiotic relationship with the bacteria in their hindgut, but also what we refer to as a colonic separation mechanism that helps them to differentiate fiber and make that hindgut cecal fermentation process as efficient as it can possibly be. Now, hopefully you guys have all heard of that term that I just threw out there, the colonic separation mechanism. If not, that's something we can certainly talk about in the future, but let's talk specifically to that in rabbits. This is one area where rabbits and guinea pigs and chinchillas are just a little bit different. Well, we know that our rabbit is descendant from the European rabbit. And so this is an animal who is natively ingesting large amounts of lush green grasses. And so with the rabbit's colonic separation mechanism, the primary functionality is to separate fiber based on size, based on fiber length. And by eliminating the large particles of fiber and concentrating the small particles of fiber in their colon, in their cecum, excuse me, they can make that digestion process, that bacterial fermentation process, as efficient as they possibly can. And that's what facilitates the development of the second type of stool that we know that rabbits make, the cecotroph, that they re-ingest directly from their back door, taking all of those important nutrients right back up into the GI tract. As I already alluded to, but I'm going to hammer on it again, we know it's the relationship with the bacteria that allow the breakdown of fiber to occur. We have to make sure that the things we do with hydration and nutrition and husbandry, for me as a veterinarian, medically speaking and pharmacologically speaking, all of those decisions we make keep the bacteria that live in the hindgut as healthy and happy as they possibly can. Because if we disrupt that environment, even if we're feeding the right types of fibers, the bacteria are not happy and healthy and not doing their job. And the rabbit's going to run into problems with that. We're going to talk a lot about fiber, probably more than you've ever wanted to. But again, fiber plays such a paramount role with everything from proper stimulation of the dental chewing motion and that wear and tear of those open-rooted, constantly growing teeth, to stimulating peristalsis, which just keeps that entire GI tract moving along. As you all probably know, rabbits are incapable of vomiting or regurgitating, and so they can't burp like other species potentially could, even other herbivores like cattle that are foregut fermenters. So rabbits need that GI tract moving along all the time. And fiber is the motor of peristalsis. That's why we want these munchkins eating on hay all the time and having fresh, clean hay available in their cage. They're going to eat it, they're going to sleep on it, they're going to poop on it. That's what rabbits love to do. But by constantly ingesting fiber, what are they doing? Chewing and keeping that GI tract moving along. So not to take you down a long road of medical disease, I'm sure you're getting some other lectures on that. But when I think about rabbits, and I think about the 5 most common diseases that I see in my practice, GI disease is number 1, dental disease, obesity, urinary tract disease, and then probably cancer, maybe respiratory is number 5. But the question I have for all of you is that how many of these diseases are directly or indirectly related to fiber or nutrition? And I think the easy answer is all of them. We know that the most important decision that any one of us as a rabbit owner is going to choose or decide is what to feed our munchkins. So nutrition, which we want to be rooted in hay, is at the foundation of anything. And just because we feed these animals perfectly, obviously doesn't mean we're never going to see disease. But I can promise you, in doing this for, I hate to admit it, but for 20 years, I know that when we feed rabbits nutritionally as closely as we possibly can, we're going to see less disease. Our goal is always to provide as big of a diversity as natural fiber sources as we can to try to emulate what Mother Nature would provide. Obviously recognizing no wild rabbits wake up in the morning and say, where is my bale of tried Timothy hay, right? So our goal is to just get as close to that as we possibly can. And the other reality is that, again, with the single most common disease that we see when we talk about GI stasis, if you look in the right-hand corner, a diet that's low in indigestible fiber is the #1 predisposing factor to that. Now, this terribly painful, the longer you look at, the more miserable it'll be. Etiology is the definition or the pathogenesis of gastric stasis. And again, the take home here is not to memorize all this. This is what I make my veterinary students do, but it's to understand that having constant availability of fiber, preferably multiple types of fiber, is advantageous for these munchkins for a lot of different reasons. All right, so let's get a little bit more into hay, a little bit more into fiber. And I'm really going to dig into the types of fiber and what that means to your animal. So we know hay is nothing more than a dried grass, right? There's nothing magical about hay. It's actually really easy to grow. The tough thing is getting it from the field into the package and maintaining the nutritional characteristics that we're after, the leaf to stem ratio, the nice color, the nice aroma, everything that we know that these munchkins want. I won't spend a lot of time here, but just to highlight some of the most common available grasses, you're probably all aware of Timothy and orchard. The great thing with both of these grasses is they're very palatable. They have a high leaf to stem ratio, high fiber, low protein, and low calcium. That's obviously what we're after. And nutritionally, they're almost identical. But there are many, many other types. Oat hay, organic meadow hay. In some areas of the US, you can think about things like Bermuda and fescue and rye and teff. There's a large diversity of grass hays that are out there that, for the most part, have a fairly similar nutritional characteristics. However, it's the physical structure, it's the leaf size, it's the, those types of variables that are different. Really the same as when we think about a rabbit feeding in the wild and eating a big diversity of plant materials. So the take-home hay is that nutritionally here, almost all of our grass hays are really, really similar. The only outlier is on the far right in alfalfa. And alfalfa is not bad, it's just different. And alfalfa used to get kind of a bad rap, and for certain life stages, it may not be appropriate. But for certain other life stages, or as a treat, where we know a munchkin can handle a little less fiber, a little more protein, a little more calcium, it may be very, very appropriate. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about hay, and let's start with kind of a 30,000-foot perspective of nutrients as a whole. So we know that all foods, whether we're talking about hay or whether we're talking about other nutrients, are all made up of a core number of macro and micronutrients. Generally, we categorize all of those nutrients into kind of 6 big buckets. There's many, many more, but 6 big buckets. So you have water, fat, vitamins, protein, carbohydrates, and minerals. Now, there's numerous subcategories under each one of those, but those are what we refer to as our macronutrient profiles or classifications. And we're going to talk specifically about carbohydrates, which fiber is a part of, and what that specifically means to these guys. Now, fiber is commonly kind of ignored, right? You look at it in the human market and the dog market, it's just not a nutrient that's talked about nearly as much. Now, when we get into obligate herbivores like rabbits, usually we have a little bit of more awareness, but one of the challenges is that from a regulation standpoint, AAFCO, who controls what any pet food company can list on their bag, requires us to list crude fiber. Now, crude fiber is one of many different types of ways to analyze fiber, but unfortunately, it's a very non-specific and actually quite an inaccurate way to represent the total complexity of what fiber is. Fiber, again, is really, really, really complex and can be broken down into 5 and or 6 different categories. And that's what I want to talk to you guys a little bit here today and give you a little bit better breadth of what we mean when we talk about fiber. So first of all, specifically with crude fiber, and this is a measurement that has been around for more than 100 years, we're going to look at 3 main components of the plant cell wall. We talk about the plant cell wall, just like organisms, mammalian species, whatever, animal species, plants are also made up of cells. And it's what makes up those cells that are a lot of the components of fiber. And so we look at the plant cell wall, which is the structural component of the plant. We're going to look at hemicellulose, cellulose, and lignin. Those are the 3 most common components that are analyzed that represent crude fiber. Now, we're going to start with cellulose, and cellulose is actually the single most abundant organic compound anywhere on our earth. And if you think about that for a second, just think about all the different plant materials that are out there and knowing that cellulose is the single most common ingredient in all of those. What its cellulose is it's made of a very long, unbranched glucose molecules. So what those do is those connect together, and almost think about a lattice or a ladder, and they form a structural component that helps to give that plant a physical structure. We look at any plant material, what does it desire to do? To grow, to produce a seed head or a flower of some type, and to propagate or to reproduce. Now, hemicellulose is another component of our crude fiber measurement that's intertwined within cellulose within the actual plant cell wall itself. Now, a little bit difference in the fact that these are short branched chain carbohydrates, but they further provide the linking, kind of the cross-linking and the connection between cellulose and lignin, which gives plant the rigidity and the stability as they grow tall. Now, lignin is really kind of the lattice work, and I would almost say like maybe the functional piers or the strongest component of that cellular matrix, which really gives plant material, and especially grass hays, whose desire is to grow as tall and big as they can to produce that seed head, the rigidity, the structural stability to grow over a period of time. And all three of these components are what make up the crude fiber analysis. Now, another way to look at plant materials and specifically fiber is to kind of ignore the crude fiber measurement and look at two other ways to more specifically look at fiber. And these are what are called detergent fiber analyses, okay? And these have evolved probably over the last 30 to 40 years or so, but they allow us to more specifically look at the different fractions of fiber, which are important when we look at hindgut fermenters. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about acid detergent fiber. This is what a measurement that recovers the most indigestible components of plant material, mostly the cellulose and the lignin. And when we talk about indigestible fiber, that's not only provides wear and tear to the dentition, but that's what stimulates peristalsis. That's what we causes the scratch factor, keeps things moving along. And so the easiest way to think about ADF is that the higher the ADF, the lower the digestibility and the lower the caloric density. Now, if we were talking about a production animal like a cow or something, we would want less ADF because we'd want more digestible, right? But in our household rabbits, where we're thinking about quantity and quality of life over, a production mentality, we want to balance that. And we actually want higher amounts of ADF because that provides dental wear and tear, GI stimulation, and it maintains that microbiome, that ecosystem in the hindgut. The other type of detergent fiber analysis is what we call neutral detergent fiber. This actually recovers not only the cellulose and the actual lignin, but also the hemicellulose, which, if you remember before, is kind of the third part of that trilogy when we look at predominantly the indigestible components of fiber. This indication gives us a better idea of how quickly fiber will fill up an animal. In other words, how quickly will they feel full, which may potentially decrease intake. Again, although these are great analyses to look at different types of diets, most of them have been developed looking at the production world, where they don't want an animal to get full because they want them to keep eating, right? Versus us in a pet companion space where we're wanting these animals to live a long period of time. We're more concerned about quality and quantity of life. Having a higher NDF tells us that they're getting more of those functional fractions of fiber, which all goes to maintaining that microbiome in the hindgut. So now that I've kind of defined crude fiber from NDF, what is the difference? Crude fiber and NDF analyze the same components. Well, it's kind of true, but the biggest difference is to remember that crude fiber is kind of like its definition. It's crude. It's a very, very simplistic way to look at fiber, but it doesn't give us all the details that we know are important. Now, legally, we have to list crude fiber on the bag. And that's where knowing the company you're working with and that they're analyzing and evaluating ADF and NDF, tying how that diet is formulated, is a really, really, really important thing to consider. Now, again, we talked about that the crude fiber analysis has been around for over 100 years, whereas the detergent fiber analysis have only been around for the last 30 to 40 years, but have really given us a much more specific way to look at the different types of fiber. So I wanted to give you a couple of quick examples that you can see here. And let's just focus on the Timothy chart that you can see here on the left. So the green bar is crude fiber, measuring at about 27%. The light blue bar is the acid detergent fiber, where again, we're focusing on the lignin and the cellulose, right? And then neutral detergent fiber brings in that hemicellulose component. And the thing that you have to realize is that depending on plant maturity, depending on plant type, and also depending on the environmental factors, the weather patterns where this hay is being grown. All of those can have a very significant impact on the ADF and the NDF, but may not massively change the crude fiber analysis. So we want to look at those, and we want to make sure that we're representing what those different fractions of fiber mean physiologically to the animal. So NDF and ADF, they're good evaluations to look at the quality and the nutritional, benefits per se of fibers when we talk about rabbits, as well as guinea pigs and chinchillas. So they're definitely indicators of feed quality and nutritional value. When we look at the equine and the bovine, or the horse and the cattle market, they commonly use these nutritional fiber analyses to look at ration formulation. Again, they're looking at it through a different lens, right? They're thinking of it from the production mentality, but we also use these when we formulate rations, looking more specifically at the health of the hindgut, at the health of that ecosystem where all those microbiome live that are designed to ferment or break down plant material, which is so essential for hindgut fermenters like rabbits, guinea pigs, and chinchillas. We have established standards, though, when we look at not only loose hays, but even when we formulate diets, to say what is the minimum level of crude fiber, NDF, and ADF that we want to have. And anytime we look at formulations, it's never a matter of one ingredient, right? It's not a matter of whether Timothy is first or orchard graft is first. It's a matter of what do all of those ingredients mean to the totality of the formulation. We live in a world, not only in the dog and the cat world, but also in the rabbit world, where certain people get caught up in certain ingredients. The grain-free explosion in the dog market is really a great example of that. Unfortunately, that's 99% marketing. That's not understanding the important role that the different ingredients play, and understanding what that total nutrient, what we call explosion, or that final nutrient profile looks like, which is what really means something to the animal. So again, the last analyses, that is something that is just starting to come into the market. It's not really economical for us to do yet, but we're starting to look at it. It's kind of commonly used in the human world, is what's referred to as total dietary fiber. This is something that we're starting to look at in the pet food arena, but the cost makes it quite prohibitive. But I think over time, this is something we'll look at, because in all honesty, it is the most comprehensive representation of total fiber. It gets the hemicellulose, it gets the cellulose, the lignins, but it also gets what are called cell wall bound proteins and other components that tie to the total fiber. So it's just really a good example of that. We know a lot about fiber because we spent a lot of time talking about it, but there's still a lot left for us to learn, especially in species like rabbits and guinea pigs and chinchillas and degus that rely so heavily on the fractions of fiber that are in their diet. So something to keep an eye on for the future. So one of the other common questions I get a lot is, Dr. Coles, what's the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber? We know rabbits need both. We know they have different functional roles, but what's the big difference? Well, really, the simplistic way to think about it is soluble fibers attract water. They pull water into the system, and that has a really important benefit in certain species and certain components of their GI tract. That typically facilitates a larger percentage of the fiber being fermented in the hindgut by bacteria, which produces short-chain volatile fatty acids, which is energy. The other component is insoluble fiber. This is predominantly the lignin, right? The cellulose. It does not absorb water, doesn't pull water into the GI tract, but as it passes through the GI tract, it stimulates motility. This would be things like hay and things like oat hulls or other fractions of grains that are higher in insoluble fiber that keep that entire GI tract moving along and maintain that ecosystem in the hindgut to allow those bacteria to do their job. So finishing up here, I think I'm running a little bit late on my time. Crude fiber is a poorly and inconsistently way to analyze fiber. We have to use it. Legally, we don't have a choice, but it's really not a good way to look at not only loose hays, but even actual formulations. And that's one thing that I can reassure you, we're looking at that. Make sure that the companies you work with are looking at that, because it's so important with our guys. Total digestible fiber, that's certainly something I hope that we can look at more in the future. Economically, it's not there yet, but we'll learn more about it, what it means for our species as we can apply that as we move into the future. And at the end of the day, know your animal, which I know you all do. Know that diversity of grass hays are really, really important. And the bigger that diversity of grass hays that we can feed, not only dry, but if you have accessibility to safe, controlled environments of fresh grasses where you know what that grass has been exposed to, that's phenomenal as well. And again, don't get caught up in marketing, right? We know that fibers grow at different times and there's different cuttings, but cuttings mean absolutely zero to the nutritional benefits of the fiber. You really need to understand the plant. You need to understand the nutritional profile of that plant and what are those environmental factors that tie into that plant's health and well-being and therefore its nutrition. Cutting is not as much of a nutritional factor as a lot of people want it to be. And it certainly doesn't tie to specific diseases. So don't get caught up in that type of marketing. But above all, it's really, really simple. This is the only thing you got to remember is these munchkins want more hay. So keep that in mind. Feed them the biggest diversity you possibly can. And again, you're doing good by your munchkin. So that's what I had to share with you guys today. I don't know if anybody has any questions, if we have time for that. And if not, I'm happy to answer those at a later time.
Dr. Cole, that was incredibly fascinating. You make me want to go to vet school. Seriously, that was amazing. We certainly appreciate you sharing all of that information. Like, that was such a great deep dive into the world of hay. Like, I'm in awe. Thank you so much for sharing that with our viewers today.
We need more bunny vets, so you should pursue that dream.
I love that. That was certainly inspiring. We
Yep.
can't thank you enough. We
You're
appreciate all of the education that you had to share, truly. We appreciate your time. And I think we do need to move on to our silent auction, but I can't wait to go back and watch that recording. Seriously, that was amazing. Thank you.
Thanks so much for everything you guys do. And I hopefully look forward to meeting a lot of you in the future. Take care.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. Wow, that was just truly fascinating. I'm blown away. So before we go any further, I want to remind everyone about the silent auction that we have. We have over 100 listings for bunny-themed kitchenware, bunny linens, home accessories, decorative pieces, along with tons of toys, treats, hideaways for that special someone in your life. So please be sure to check that out. When you win, the bunnies win, because all of the proceeds from the Bunnyfest silent auction go directly towards the medical costs for our shelter rabbits. But just like everything else at Bunnyfest, time is running out, so you don't want to wait. Bidding closes tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We do have another deadline coming up at Bunnyfest, and that is to vote for our bunny photo contest. Make sure to go ahead and check out the Bunnyfest site and click on the photo contest page. Voting closes today at 4 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, so you don't want to miss out. Winners will be announced tonight during our Bunnyfest closing session, so may the best bun win. There's so many cute little buns there. Everyone's so photogenic. I just love it. If you've enjoyed looking at our entries in the photo contest, then you will absolutely love our 2022 Adoptable Rabbits calendar. Look at those buns. Each month features one of our bunnies that are available for adoption, and you can get the calendar right now at sandiego-rabbits.org. Okay, it's time for our drawing. It is our last drawing of Bunnyfest to win a gift from one of our Bunnyfest Gold sponsors, Oxbow Animal Health. And today's prize is a hideaway hay barn. How cool is that? Today's winner is Lynette Feely from San Marcos, California. Congratulations, Lynette. Hope you're watching out there. We will be contacting you via email, so please be sure to look out so we can help get that Oxbow prize to your bun. Now, would you like to win your own Oxbow Hideaway barn or make some purchases in our Bunnyfest marketplace? We have an incredible amount of merchandise to check out for truly unique items that you really wouldn't find elsewhere. Items for yourself and items for your bun. I can share a couple of things that I have here from Scribble Bunny. Look at those cute little photos. Doesn't everyone need like a little bunny witch on a little flying carrot there and like a bunny alien? That's from Scribble Bunny. We've got Will Quinn, another one of our favorites here. Like, look at that R. That's a little haunted house featuring little buns. There's just so much bunny goodness for you to enjoy. We've got slippers, jewelry, soap, stickers, all sorts of good bun stuff. So please hop on over to the Bunnyfest Marketplace at sandiegobunnyfest.org to check it all out. Again, we've got over 30 vendors from across the country with truly unique and special items for all bunny lovers to enjoy. And while you're there, please be sure to check out the Bunnyfest Marketplace section where you can order your 2021 Bunnyfest t-shirt. It comes in a crew neck and it comes in a V-neck in 4 different colors. And this beautiful t-shirt was designed by San Diego House Rabbit Society, the very talented Kelly Cross. It reflects the virtual nature of Bunnyfest by featuring a bunny watching our events on a computer while enjoying a sunny day on the beach in San Diego. So, so cute. So you don't want to wait. The Bunnyfest Marketplace closes tonight at midnight Pacific Daylight Time. And last but not least, for those of you who are wondering what the speed painting performance looked like earlier this week, let's go ahead and check out this time-lapse video to see the artist in action. That was just so fascinating. I could watch that video over and over again. We'd like to thank the artist Amy Berkman for not only donating her time, but her skill to help us with our Bunnyfest fundraising. If you'd like to win Amy's original painting and other prizes, please visit the speed painting page on the Bunnyfest website to learn how you can win by donating to Bunnyfest. But you don't want to wait. The window to donate closes tonight at midnight Pacific Daylight Time. Now, even though today is the last day of Bunnyfest, there's still plenty going on. Coming up today, we have Holistic and Integrative Medicine for Rabbits, followed by Bunny 101 Part 4. After that, we have Providing for Your Bunny After You're Gone. Then the Bunny Jeopardy game, Bunny Bonding, and our Bunnyfest closing session. You can access recordings of the sessions you missed earlier this week and watch them until October 31st. All in all, we have over 25 different sessions for you to enjoy on the menu. All you have to do is check everything out at sandiegobunnyfest.org. I hope to see you all tonight at the Bunnyfest closing session starting at 6 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. We'll announce the photo contest winners, check in to see if we met our Bunnyfest fundraising goal, and pay a very special tribute to the veterinary doctors in our bunny community. Well, folks, today is Sunday Bun Day in my bunny kingdom here, which means my bunny Klaus needs to get his Sunday massage. So I will see you all later. Take care.